Hey, friends, welcome back to the podcast. We're kicking off season 2 of Glow Getter Guru. And I'm so happy to have you. I'm sorry for that. I'm not sorry for that. Anyway, we're kicking off season 2, like I said, and we're diving into a topic that I am incredibly excited about, which is designing your life, because we're at the top of the year, everyone's favorite time of the year. The holidays are done, our pockets are filling back up because we're done spending, and we have this aura in the air, the fresh start effect. We're moving out of our winter arcs and into the beginning of possibilities. That was a little dramatic, but what I'm trying to say is that at the top of the year, many people, including myself and maybe even you, benefit from the fresh start effect. So it's that feeling we get that we have new opportunities to start over, like our fresh start is here. So this is our chance to step into the driver's seat of our lives and set the tone for what's ahead. Okay. So specifically, if you've been feeling stuck, uninspired, or unsure about how to make the most of the next 12 months, then this episode is specifically for you. Okay? I'm your hostess, Alley Cat. I go by many names, but Alley Cat. New year, same core person, new nickname. So, for this episode, what I want you to do is, if you're not driving, grab your favorite drink, get a notebook, like your cute notebook, probably from the collection of endless journals that you can't stop buying. Just literally pick the cutest one, because the notes for this episode, they need to be in a cute journal, okay? So get your cute journal, get comfy, and let's get started. Okay. So, what does it mean to design your life? First, let's talk about what designing your life really means. Okay. So, really, like the most simplest form of what it means is that it's about being intentional. So, this year, we're not waiting for things to fall in our lap or wishing for opportunities to come to fruition. Okay. Or letting the year unfold without having any direction at all. Instead, we're going to be proactive and we're going to start to create the life that we want. So think of your year as a canvas and you're the artist. What do we want our masterpieces to look like at the end of the year? So when you design your year, you're not just setting goals, okay? You're actually being more intentional on a deeper level, because what we want to do is set the foundation for how we want to feel, how we want to grow, and how we want to thrive, like in our present moment and in the future. The past is gone. We can't do anything about that. So we're setting in the foundation for what we're going to be doing moving forward. All right. So the most critical piece of the puzzle, which I admit has been a struggle and a challenge for me, and maybe it's been a challenge for you too, is that we need to be keeping an open and limitless mindset. So I did have like a pretty rough year last year, like ups and downs with my job and what I want to do with my life, and trying to be consistent on this podcast, and like trying to just find like a support circle, and but a bunch of challenges, blah 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 blah. I had been like putting caps on my mindset, like, oh, I can't have these kind of friends, or it's going to be hard to meet these type of women, or I don't have the experience to even be in a circle like that. Those are the type of things that were running through my mind. So I'm saying, like, too often we box ourselves in with limiting beliefs, like, I don't see how I can get there, I'm not ready, or I don't have that type of support. But I'm here to say today, to me and to you, because we both need to hear this, is that you are capable of so much more than you give yourself credit for. You're capable. When you dream big, you give yourself permission to imagine a reality where you're achieving incredible, amazing things. And it's not just wishful thinking, actually, it's backed by science. So when you visualize your success inside your brain, it actually starts working to make that vision a reality. So we already have that advantage. We can trick our brains into thinking, this is real. This is what's happening right now. And your brain's like, okay. And it starts making decisions in other areas to align with that visualization. So for this episode, and for some of the activities and takeaways that I want to give you today, the rule is that we're going to commit to dreaming big and we're going to leave self-doubt at the door. I know I've personally been burned by being overly confident in the past. And so I know it can be scary to revisit the idea of abandoning self doubt when, like, you may have been confident and then wrong before, because ultimately that's kind of where self doubt comes from. But really, it's a tool to protect ourselves in lots of cases, but this isn't one of them. So we're going to be committing to leaving the self doubt behind, and we are going to trust ourselves throughout this process to be able to work things out. And I'm just going to say it again, you're capable, and I believe in you, girl. All right. So my bestie Anna Tessie and I were talking about planning a brain dumping daydreaming session to kick off the year, and we finally did that yesterday. And we actually it was just supposed to be a daydreaming brain dumping session, but I love to make vision boards because I'm just a creative person and I'm like kinesthetic. I'm very hands on. Like I need to be. I have to do more than writing in a notebook. Like I live to create things. So I literally bought us some stuff to do vision boards as well. And so this is where we decided to let everything out. So we had like a focused brain dumping session. This is what I'm telling you as my first piece of advice to get into the intentions that you want to set. Start by having a brain dumping and a daydreaming or vision boarding type of workshop with yourself or with your friends. It's way more fun with friends. Okay. So, what you do is you grab a notebook or maybe even a whiteboard if you're with a group of friends or individual notebooks. That's what we did. And we wrote down every idea, goal, or dream that came to our mind that it was important to us. So it didn't matter how big or how small or realistic or wild it seemed. So lots of the things we wrote down were very practical, everyday things that we just want to improve on, like around the household. And then we also wrote down our big long term visions that we would have to like put an action plan and work towards. But yeah, we just wrote everything down. I think I had like 2.5 full pages of things. We spent 25 minutes of focus just writing that stuff, and we played some. She played some brain music. It was like a mix of like nature and classical sounds and things like that. But anyway, so we spent some time actually writing things down. And then what we did after that was we read our lists to each other and focused on each person in their list. And so she talked through her list and we stopped at items and talked a little bit through them a little bit more. And, had to hype each other up to, encourage each other and supportive. So we made it social. So she made some amazing pasta. It was delicious. And I made a cha-cha board, aka a charcuterie board with fruit and cheese. And yeah, we got cozy and then we dove into it, like I said. And there's just something so powerful about sharing your dreams out loud and hearing your friends' ideas too, because it creates this electric energy that makes everything that you wrote down feel possible. So that's why I highly recommend that you do it with friends. And the rules are very important. So there's no shaming, supportive and encouraging comments only, and to help each other think through some of the things that we're writing down. Or even, I think I've always been like a big dreamer. I like to call myself a professional daydreamer, but my friend actually had a little bit of self doubt at some points in the list. So I really loved that we were able to do that together and talk each other up. And when I was sharing my list, I even got emotional on one of the items. And so, yeah, I highly recommend you do this with friends, but you can do it on your own, but you'll just have to push a little harder to motivate yourself and kind of work through some of those feelings that come along alone. So, yeah, no shaming, supportive and encouraging comments only. No dream is too big, and absolutely no self doubt. So don't put pressure on yourself to have any other outcome other than writing the goals down and having fun. And honestly, it was just so fun. I wish we would have did it with a bigger group of friends too. Actually, we were talking maybe we should do it again with another few of our friends, but it was great. It was amazing. I loved it. So daydreaming and brain dumping session. Number one. Alrighty. So moving on. So the vision board session or daydreaming or brain dumping session, wish session is over. And now the next thing that you have to do, which I have to do with my list that I created yesterday in our session, is that we're going to start talking about turning those dreams into actions. So once we've had our brain dump, it's time to identify themes. So looking for patterns or recurring ideas. Maybe you wrote down like wanting more financial freedom, starting a creative project, or prioritizing your health, or changing careers, or, you know, managing, redefining the relationships around you, etc. Lots of things. So you look for the themes in what you wrote down in your list and see if you can identify some of those things. And then set goals by choosing the 3 to 5 key areas to focus on based on those themes that you identified. And these should be the items in your list that actually light you up the most. This year, I've been trying to figure out the way that I want to frame my goals. So one way I'm going to suggest 2 ways to you. One is the to, from, because framework, which comes from like project management stuff, but I really liked it for the ideas of goals. So I had wrote a few of my goals down to say to from what I currently am. And if that's confusing, let me give you an example. So I could write something like to going to bed by 9:30. That's what I want to do. From going to bed past midnight. That's what I'm currently doing, because better sleep will help me feel well rested, energetic, clear minded, looking refreshed every day, help me show up in areas that are important to me as my best self. So I was actually writing them in sentence format. So to, from, because, that's one way. Excuse me. And then my friend, she suggested breaking them down into quarterly goals. So that way you don't write your goals down and then you say, oh, I have the entire year to do this. And then at the end of the year, you're trying to squeeze things in, those professional procrastinators. They're going to get you every time. So we talked about writing them down into quarterly goals. And actually, I like that a lot. I think I'm going to do that. I don't think I'm going to do that. I am for a fact going to do that. I need to identify my themes, pick what are the most important things to me, and then break them down into quarterly goals. And then making the action plans for those things, which is going even deeper into those things. So this is where we're talking about setting the intention of our foundation that we were talking about, feeling, growing, thriving. And so these action plan are the things that you can do every day. Like for the example of the get quality sleep that I shared. So some of the things on the action plan might be to set a reminder on my phone just like 2 hours before I want to go to bed. That tells me that I need to start winding down, and then maybe having a nighttime routine. So maybe I'll get an alarm and then I'll spend the next hour taking care of the household things that I just feel like I can't go to sleep if I don't at least make progress there. And then maybe having a sleep routine, wearing a sleep mask to bed, maybe putting in earplugs, maybe plugging your phone on the other side of the room. Um, and it's important to remember that progress is better than perfection. So you don't need to make a super highly detailed action plan that you can't stick to. Any type of recurring action that brings you closer to the goal is an action plan. So you don't need to feel overwhelmed by that. So small, consistent steps, they lead to the consistent habits that will actually bring these dreams into fruition. So we talked about the brain dump. We talked about narrowing them down to the important areas and practical steps. And now let's talk about reviewing and refining them. So it's very important, like throughout the year as we're going through this and we're designing our lives, is that we remember that these things are not set in stone. Okay, life happens and that's okay. So you're going to schedule regular check-ins with yourself to review your progress and adjust your plan as needed. Like my friend and I, we committed to meeting monthly and kind of reviewing our goals and the progress we're making, or what we've changed, or where we're struggling, and help each other to kind of talk through those things. So we can adjust our plans as needed. So it doesn't mean like straight up giving up on a goal because something is new or hard, but more of like, okay, so this goal was important to me and these are the things I started doing, but then I realized that it was interrupting this part of my life, which is actually more important. So this goal is not aligning with me, so I'm going to drop it, or I'm going to replace it, or I'm not going to put my focus into it, or I need to approach it a different way to meet it. That type of kind of analysis that you need to do on your goals. And just think of it as a monthly meeting with your future self. So you can ask yourself things like, okay, what's working? What's not working? What can I do differently so I can stay aligned with my vision that I put on my vision board? And just always know that flexibility is your best friend when it comes to long-term success. But giving up is not. Giving up is your enemy. Flexibility is your best friend. Yeah. Okay, so We're going to wrap up in a little bit, but I want to leave you with a few exercises, okay? And a journaling prompt to help you get started. So, one thing that I did that I found really, really helpful was I listed out because I said, I think I even said it at the beginning of this episode that I had a rough year last year. And actually, I need to stop saying that because this exercise that I'm giving you, I did it and I found out that I actually didn't have as bad as a year as I thought. I was just focused on the negative things too much. So the exercise is that you list out all of your happy or proud moments from the last year before you get into the journaling prompt. I was personally feeling like I didn't accomplish like shit at the end of the year. So I did this exercise to help me look at more of the positive high points of my year. Okay. So, which I used my Google Photos, my calendar, my text message history to like dig up all of the happy things that I experienced this year and my social media. And I was pleasantly surprised to find that I actually had an amazing year. And I was being entirely too hard on myself. So I actually found big accomplishments like launching this podcast last year. I was able to put out 20 episodes. And then I also had like the smallest, sweetest accomplishments. Like it was the first time ever that I was able to babysit my nephew. And I was able to celebrate like mini birthdays and with my family and friends. And just to be able to be present for those occasions made me really proud because in the past, before I got into my career and started trying to, become more stable, I would just work all the time. And like literally, I would have people call me flaky, but literally it's just because I was just so exhausted, or I would end up having to work that day or have the opportunity to pick up a shift, or I just needed to recuperate and I just couldn't do that. So now when I looked back at my year, then I could see that I could be present for moments, I could be relaxed, I could be there in the moment and not feel stressed, and that I'm able to like buy flights to travel to my sister's house to celebrate my niece's birthday and to celebrate her birthday and things like that. So even those like small things that we normally take for granted, I wrote them down because I was really proud to have them. I mean, even if you were someone who barely ever goes outside and you remember that one day you wanted to go outside and just you went out and you got a walk and you got fresh air and maybe you saw a butterfly. You accomplish something by being able to slow down and look around you and enjoy being outside. Everything that I remember that made me happy, from small moments to big moments, I wrote them down. And then I also included the negative points of my year that I was saying, oh, my year was been so bad. I wrote those things down too, so I could put things into perspective for myself. But if you're someone who focuses on the negative a lot, don't do the negative. But I personally did it because I was able to do a count and see, how the year balanced. So I actually had 73 positive things that I was able to write down, from small to big accomplishments that made me happy. And the only things that I could remember from the bad things, the big bad things that I said made my year not great, there were only 6 of those things that I could remember standing out. And so I was able to say, wow, out of this many items in this entire list, this small percentage was negative. I actually had a great fucking year, you know? So, like I said, if you're the type of person to dwell on the negative, I strongly encourage you leave the negative items off the list and just write down all the positive things. So, after you do that, you can get into the journaling prompt, which is, and I'll say it slowly, if I could design my year without any limits, what would it look like? What steps can I take today to move closer to that vision? So take some time to reflect on this and don't hold back. Your dreams are worth exploring. And actually, something that my friend mentioned last night was, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. No, it was a gym, so I have to remember it. I remember. So it was, if you went into every conversation, opportunity, or goal, and you could see the future and see that you already got that, like you already accomplished that thing that you're trying to accomplish, how would you be different in those conversations or in those moments or in that time, knowing that the future you achieved it? So that's something to think about when you're writing out this journaling prompt about designing your year without any limits. Yeah, just pretend that you already know everything you wrote down on your list. You've got in the future you achieved it. So how are you going to move differently knowing that? All right. And I need to do a shameless plug right here because you're all trying to grow. So, if you're ready to take your goal setting to the next level, I have the perfect resource for you. I actually wrote a short book called Glowing on All Levels, and it's available on Amazon. And it's packed with practical tips and exercises to help you design a life that truly lights you up. So head over to Amazon and grab your copy. It's a goal setting book specifically for women. And I think that it can really help you to make your year the most radiant one yet. So if you're overwhelmed by all of these things that we talked about, the book actually lays it out in a very simple, easy to follow format with examples as well. All right. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, you have the power to design your year and your life. Dream big, take action, and keep glowing on all levels. Until next time, thank you for coming back for season 2 and take care.